The drama of Jesus' crucifixion began during Christ's Last Supper, during which he said, "This is my body. This is my blood, shed for you for the forgiveness of sin." Jesus was handing himself over to his betrayers, sinners, which included every one of his disciples. It'd be easy to think there was only one betrayer, Judas. But when you read each gospel account of Jesus' crucifixion, you'll find that no one defended him. Everyone deserted him. It may come as a surprise that Jesus' disciples were betrayers. And it may also be a surprise that the Son of God would hang from a cross and die. But anyone familiar with the Old Testament is aware that the events leading up to Jesus' crucifixion were predicted to happen in the sacred scriptures of the Old Testament. For example, Jesus would be betrayed by a friend. He would stand silent when accused, not defending himself from the accusations made against him. He would be hated, spit upon, hit, mocked, and insulted. He would suffer and be crucified with sinners. His hands and feet would be pierced. He would be given gall and vinegar. He would pray for his enemies. After all of these prophecies were fulfilled, Jesus cried out, "It is finished," bowed his head, and gave up his spirit. Following his death, one last prophecy was fulfilled. His side would be pierced, but with no bones broken. The fulfillment of these prophecies is connected with Jesus' words at the Last Supper as he handed over his body and blood to his disciples. And remember, Jesus said the purpose of shedding his blood was for the forgiveness of sin. People often ask, could God forgive sins without sending Jesus to the cross? The answer given by Jesus and his Father in heaven is no. Why is that? It has to do with how forgiveness works. The reason people are forgiven is because they sin. As Jesus traveled throughout Israel, he was announcing the forgiveness of sins. The people who believed his preaching were those who recognized they were sinners. Time and again, the religious leaders and those dedicated to following God's law, including Jesus' own disciples, believed they could avoid sinning. So they didn't believe they needed God's mercy. They imagined they were in control of their lives and destiny. A perfect example is the Apostle Paul. He didn't think he was a sinner until Christ confronted him on the road to Damascus, saying, "Saul, why do you persecute me?" Saul was like the other dedicated Jews Jesus encountered. He believed God's law, especially the commandments, determined our relationship with God. But as Paul would later write in his letters to the Galatians and the Corinthians, Jesus would suffer at the hands of people trying to uphold the law. The religious people would use God's law to curse Jesus and accuse him, the one who knew no sin, of being a sinner. Thus, Jesus was sacrificed due to the sin of the world. He suffered the consequence of sin, which is death, and not one person stood up for him. This helps us understand why Jesus cried out from the cross, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing." Jesus handed over his body and shed his blood so that when he declared the forgiveness of sins, all who betrayed him could hear it was for them.